Hello, this is Steve Shaw from IBM. In this video I'm going to demonstrate the Design Management 4.0 capability of deploying a custom domain in a project area. We will use the organization domain that keeps track of employee information in Enterprise created in Part 1. When your domain is ready to deploy, the first thing you need to do is create a snapshot based on your current configuration. We will name this snapshot org1. Once the snapshot is created, we can return back to the DM application and see the configuration within the snapshot context. Here we'll navigate back to the Explorer. Inside the snapshot configuration, everything is read-only. You must switch back to the main workspace configuration in order to edit again. The next step is to set up or create the project area where we will deploy the domain and test the instance editors. In our particular case, we'll create a new project area from scratch. In the Manage Project Areas, there's a link to create a new project area. Here we will create a project area called Test Organization. Add the users who will have access to this project area for test purposes, and also who has rights to administer the project area. Once the project area is saved and the users are added, we can navigate to the project area itself, assuming that we are added to the project area as a user. In the project area, we want to configure the VVC space. Since this project area is for test, choosing the default is adequate. Next, we can go into the project properties and choose the Domains tab. This project, we want it to be actively managed by DM. And then we can finally select our particular domain in the list as being deployed into the project area. Finally, on save, you'll be prompted for the domain versions. We want to select the version that matches the snapshot that we created originally. Now the domain is deployed into the project area. We can access the Designs menu and view our top-level classes inside our domain that are available for creation. Here you can see Developer and Manager. Let's create a developer instance and test the form to see if it suits our purposes. Here in the developer instance form, you can see all the data type properties who were added in the domain ontology definition. So there's an entry for salary, start date. Experience shows up as a large text field as we had designated it. As well, there is a collection for skills where you can add strings into the collection. Finally, you'll notice a collection for review history where we can create instances of performance reviews. In the performance review creation dialog, we can see the data type properties that we had set as domain performance review, and start date is available just like on employee as we had designated. The review rating is an enumeration, and here you can select one of the one-of values that we had set into the performance rating class. Let's save our developer. Once the instance is saved, we can inspect some of the values. You'll notice that review history is now a link, and we can re-edit and make changes as necessary. Let's now create a manager instance. So you'll notice a lot of the same values appear as on the developer instance, since they are both employees. So you can enter salary and a start date, experience. Now, the manager doesn't have a skills collection since that was specific to developer. But you do notice that it has an employees collection, and here we can add the employee that we or developer that we had just added. Next, we can save the manager instance. Now that we've been able to try the two different instance editors, we can navigate back to the Domains project area and make customizations as we see fit. Once in the Domains project area, we can create an editor constraint. Let's call it the Employee Editor Constraints, and make some subtle changes. So let's rename title to name, just to make it a little more intuitive. Here we can create a label constraint, set the class to employee, and the property will be DC terms title, and the new label is name. There may also be properties on our form instance that are appearing when we don't want them to. Here we can utilize a visibility constraint to hide them permanently. In this case, we're not interested in seeing the folder property, so we can utilize a visibility constraint to remove it from the form instance. Another useful constraint is the group constraint. Using the group constraint, you can group and order properties together on the form instance. For employee subclasses, let's create a group called Employee Info and group together the properties that are specific to employee. So we can add salary, experience, and start date in the same group. Now, since group specifies order, we can also change the order in which these properties will appear in the group. Now that we have our set of editor constraints, we need to make them active by adding them to an editor definition. Let's navigate back to the organization domain so that we can do that. In the editor definitions collection, let's add a new editor definition. Set the document type to be employee, which means this editor definition will become active for all employee subclasses. Let's select the editor constraint that we just added, and then extend this editor definition from the default properties editor definition, since there may be some default constraints we want to keep active. Now that our new editor definition is part of the domain, we can create a new snapshot and make sure it has a unique name. In this case, we'll call it org with EC. Then we can return back to our test project area and in the Manage Project Properties, we need to set the new version for this domain. Selecting the snapshot we just created will make it become active within the current configuration. Next, we can go back to the Explorer and examine the instances we've previously created. If we open up Bob the Manager, instantly we can see all the different changes that we had made to the editor definition through our constraints. So salary, start date, and experience are grouped. Title is now called name. Folder property is no longer visible. This concludes our demonstration. For more information, come visit us at Jazz.net. Thank you.